What does it mean to live a life of truth? You know, to you, does that mean like just in the words you speak? Is that just what it means to live a life of truth? You know, or is it spiritually? You know, living in alignment with your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual, framework? Or what about physically? What's living a life of truth physically look like to you or mean to you? Does that mean like making sure you honor your body and getting up and all that kind of stuff? Mentally, what does it mean to live a life of truth? Does it mean talking about what you believe, telling other people what you believe? Or does it mean actually integrating those beliefs into your life? You know, same with spirituality. Does it mean knowing what your spiritual framework means to you? Or does it mean actually living that for real? You know, living the precepts of your spirituality? I think a lot of us talk a lot about truth, and for most people, truth is about this. But truth is embedded into your life, into how you walk your walk, into how you talk your talk. It also shows up where we struggle. Where it shows up is where we're not in alignment with our truth, where we state a truth. We state a truth. So we're doing this. State a truth. And then the universe gives us opportunities to live that truth, to walk that truth. And we don't. You know, we shape-shift around it. We justify why we're not walking that truth, you know. We fool ourselves into thinking we're walking the truth. Into thinking we're living in the truth. I went through some big realizations lately where I recognized I was not walking in truth. And the place where I wasn't walking in truth was so subtle. So subtle. But it was enough. You know, it's like when a marksman is shooting at a target like a kilometer away, if the barrel of his rifle is off by 1 millimeter, by the time that bullet hits the target, it's not even going to hit the target. If his sight is off by 1 millimeter, that bullet's going to miss the target by probably about 3 or 4 feet on the other end, right? And those little subtle places where we're not living in our truth are the same. You know, it could be something really tiny that feels inconsequential. But the cascading effects of that into our lives can sometimes be catastrophic, you know, or sometimes result in us being in situations or living in situations for a long time where we're just being harmed. We're attracting people that are aligned with that incongruency in our truth. We're attracting situations that are trying to constantly show us where we're not aligned, even if it's this little tiny thread, you know, it can blow up into a massive thing in the long run. So, you know, it's worth really looking at our core beliefs, looking at how deeply we're living in truth with those things, you know. So if you could do one thing today, look at possibly where you're either especially consciously, you know, if you could find one place where you're consciously not living in alignment with who you say you are. And like I said, we know those places. We know consciously when we're doing these things. If you could find one of those places and like commit to yourself that you're going to not do that anymore, amazing. You know, but if you could look into like some areas of your life that feel like they have a little bit of chaos or a little bit of energy like that, and you believe in your heart that you're walking in your truth, and you're like, why does this always keep happening to me? If you could do one thing today, look for those kind of situations and try to map it to where you might not be actually living into your truth.